According to the Pleiadian emissary VALIR, something profound has occurred behind the veil of ordinary perception, the reptilian grid, a dense energetic framework used to distort Earth's frequency field, has collapsed. This grid wasn't made of steel or satellites. It was woven into thought patterns, emotion loops, and identity constructs. For ages, it reinforced limitation, separation, and fear. But now, it has lost its energetic grip. What replaces it is not chaos, but clarity. And those who are aligned will feel an inner unlocking, a release, a shift that no external proof can define, because it is happening inside the soul's blueprint. The grid was a program, not a prison. For generations, many believed they were trapped in an invisible force, something external, overpowering, and cruel. But what the Pleiadians have always emphasized is this: the grid was a program, not a prison. It didn't bind us with walls. It bound us with ideas. Ideas about what we are, what we're not, and what we're allowed to remember. A grid functioned like a filter. It didn't stop the truth. It simply reframed it through limitation. It created feedback loops that kept consciousness recycling in patterns of doubt, shame, division, and disempowerment. Most didn't even realize they were inside it because it mimicked normal thought. When you questioned your worth, doubted your purpose, or forgot your infinite self, you weren't weak. You were interfacing with a grid that fed on low-frequency identity. And here's the shift. The collapse of that program means your thoughts are now returning to original signal. No distortion, no feedback trap. This realization is liberating. It means you were never truly imprisoned, only temporarily disconnected from your source frequency. And now that the grid has collapsed, it's not about escape, it's about reorientation. The cage didn't open, it disappeared, and your soul now reclaims the sky. Energetic architecture has been rewritten in silence. The collapse of the reptilian grid didn't happen with explosions or fanfare. It happened in silence. Because the real changes occur not in the noise of events, but in the architecture of energy. The unseen blueprint that governs human perception, emotional access, and spiritual connection has quietly been recoded. This new architecture doesn't use force. It uses resonance. It harmonizes fields rather than restricts them. Imagine an invisible scaffolding once used to bend light into distortion, now being replaced with crystalline geometry that amplifies clarity instead of confusion. You may feel this as strange calmness, deep rest, or subtle pulses in the body. The silence was intentional. It protected the process. Had it been loud or disruptive, the old grid would have responded with resistance. But instead, a divine intelligence moved beneath the surface, rewriting energy lines, releasing interference patterns, and restoring original flow without confrontation. You'll begin to sense this in your own life. Old mental loops no longer have fuel. Emotional patterns don't stick. Clarity comes without effort. This isn't random. It's evidence that the energetic framework beneath your life is new. You're still standing in the same world, but the floor beneath you no longer distorts your light. Low-frequency contracts have been dissolved. The reptilian grid wasn't just an atmospheric distortion. It was linked to unseen contracts made at individual and collective levels. Agreements made from fear, survival, and amnesia. Agreements that locked people into roles, burdens, and beliefs they never truly chose with awareness. These weren't written on paper. They were encoded in trauma, scarcity, and inherited thought patterns. But with the grid's collapse, these old agreements are losing their enforcement. The structures that once reinforced you must suffer to evolve or you are separate from source are dissolving from the root. What does that feel like? A sense of emotional detachment from past obligations. A sudden release from roles that never truly fit. Decisions made from guilt no longer carry weight. The energetic bindings, those unseen tethers to identity pain are snapping. Not violently, but cleanly. You are free to renegotiate your soul's trajectory now. Not from ego, but from clarity. The old contracts did their job. They exposed density, but they are no longer valid in this field. You are being offered a new agreement, one that is aligned with sovereignty, expansion, and divine memory. The end of collective hijacking is real. For a long time, collective fields were vulnerable to energetic hijacking. Large events, media cycles, and mass emotional triggers were used to distort the human energy field. They didn't just affect the mind, they redirected the heart, often without anyone knowing it had happened. The grid amplified this vulnerability. It allowed manipulation to occur beneath conscious awareness, where fear could be magnified, division injected, and chaos normalized. But now, with the grid's collapse, that collective hijacking mechanism has lost its infrastructure. The hijack signal has no more broadcast tower. This doesn't mean darkness vanishes overnight, but it means it can no longer direct the field in the same way. The web that carried reactive programming has been cut. That means your emotional response is becoming your own again, organic, not orchestrated. Your thoughts are yours to navigate, not manipulate. This is not just protection, it's liberation of perception. As the old control signal fades, mass awakening becomes inevitable. Not because someone's preaching truth, but because the veil that blocked truth from being felt is no longer active. The light is no longer filtered, and now humanity sees with its own eyes. Frequency gates have reopened across the planet. When the reptilian grid collapsed, it didn't just free minds, it unsealed energetic gates across the earth. These frequency gates are ancient access points buried in mountains, oceans, and forgotten sacred sites. For ages, they remained dormant, blocked by the distortion field. These gates aren't portals in the sci-fi sense. They are living access points that pulse with divine intelligence. They respond to harmony, not control. Now that the interference grid has lifted, these gates are waking up, and those attuned will begin to feel a pull, a memory, a magnetic invitation from the earth herself. You may feel drawn to new locations, receive dreams of places you've never visited, or experience sudden shifts while walking through forests, coasts, or highlands. These are not coincidences. These are activations. The Earth is reopening her multidimensional nervous system to reconnect with awakened humans. These gates allow not just connection to the planet, but to higher streams of galactic consciousness. They are how Earth remembers her role in the cosmic grid. And now, with distortion gone, they are calling us home, not physically, but vibrationally, into deeper relationship with Earth and the stars. The Pleiadians confirm recalibration is complete. Through VALIR and others, the Pleiadians confirm that the recalibration process, which began decades ago, has now completed its first major phase. This recalibration involved dismantling energetic interference, repairing galactic connections, and restoring sovereignty at the blueprint level of consciousness. The completion didn't come with fanfare because it wasn't external. It was a vibrational threshold. Once enough souls stabilized coherence in the face of chaos, the system could shift. That moment has now passed. The grid is gone. The reset is active. And humanity is no longer suspended. It is moving. You may feel this as inner quietness after years of emotional noise, or a soft certainty replacing the need for validation. It's the sensation of finally being in your own frequency field, unentangled from projections, interference, or ancestral burdens you didn't choose. This completion is not the end. It's the foundation. From here, everything will build faster, cleaner, and with less energetic drag. You are no longer working through interference. You are building in clear space. The frequency scaffolding has changed, and that changes everything you create from now on. Why the grid collapsed without conflict. Many imagined that such a major shift would involve chaos, war, or external revolution. But the Pleiadians always taught that the most powerful systems collapse not through violence, but through non-resonance. The grid didn't explode, it deactivated, not from destruction, but from irrelevance. Its power was never self-sustained. It required agreement. It needed humanity to feed it with fear, doubt, and division. But once enough humans stopped participating in its frequency, even unconsciously, it began to unravel. The structure couldn't hold without consent. This is the beauty of the collapse. It was driven by awakening, not war. Love didn't fight darkness. It simply refused to believe in it anymore. And in that refusal, the power source collapsed. The field once supported by distortion now rests in neutral. This reveals a profound truth. Light does not need to destroy darkness. It only needs to outlast it. The collapse was not an act of rebellion. It was a return to natural law. The frequency of coherence no longer allowed distortion to continue. And so it didn't. Your DNA is reconnecting to cosmic truth. DNA is not just biological. It is dimensional memory encoded with cosmic lineage and soul agreements. Under the reptilian grid, this crystalline helix was veiled in static, not broken, just dampened, limiting your access to galactic awareness and higher order intuition. Now that the distortion field has collapsed, light codes previously blocked are flowing freely again. These codes are not information. They are resonance triggers. They don't teach you new things. They remind you who you already are. This shift is activating layers of dormant DNA that hold your soul's cosmic memory. You may begin to sense this as heightened intuitive clarity, strange dreams of other star systems, or a sudden desire to explore ancient knowledge. Your body will feel it too, tingling along the spine, energetic downloads, even changes in taste or rhythm. These are signs of reconnection, not confusion. Your DNA is no longer in survival mode. It is recalibrating to light memory. The part of you that forgot your origin story is now syncing with the frequency of your multidimensional self. And as your DNA responds, reality will too, mirroring a version of you more expanded, sovereign, and awake than ever before. Timeline manipulation has lost its anchor points. For eons, timelines were quietly redirected, distorted, and collapsed by low-frequency tech embedded in the grid system. These manipulations didn't just affect nations, they nudged individual lives toward disempowerment, looping experiences, and energy siphoning under the illusion of fate. This manipulation worked by anchoring you to trauma cycles and false urgency. But with the grid's collapse, those artificial anchor points have dissolved. Timeline redirection can no longer maintain itself because the energetic levers used to hold alternate pathways in place have been disarmed. What does this mean? Your soul path will now progress without detour. Events may seem to accelerate, but they're not rushed. They're realigning. Destinies delayed are now unfolding. Possibilities blocked are now surfacing. You are stepping into timelines not imposed from distortion, but designed from truth. You may feel this as a snapping forward, projects moving fast, people showing up exactly when needed, or long-held visions manifesting without resistance. This isn't luck. It's the clearing of artificial weight. You're not being pushed. You're being freed into your authentic momentum. The illusion of separation has been unplugged. Perhaps the most damaging function of the reptilian grid was its ability to simulate separation from each other, from source, and from self. This illusion created the myth of loneliness, of being disconnected, of not belonging anywhere but Earth's dense surface. But separation was never real. It was an induced experience crafted by energetic filtering, like trying to hear divine music through static. With the grid removed, The plug has been pulled on that distortion, and now the symphony of oneness is coming through clearly. This may not feel like a grand revelation. It may feel like peace, softness, or unexpected connection to everything around you. Moments when you feel inexplicably held, when you cry from joy or feel presence in silence. These are signs that the field of unity has returned to your awareness. You no longer need to find connection. It is restoring itself from within you. And the illusion that you're alone, abandoned, or forgotten is beginning to dissolve like fog in sunlight. The veil has thinned, and behind it was never emptiness, only love you can finally feel again. Dimensional access is no longer restricted. The grid acted like a firewall between dimensions, restricting access to higher frequencies and realities. These weren't just metaphysical concepts. They were functional layers of existence that informed dreams, intuition, soul missions, and galactic contact. Now that this firewall has collapsed, dimensional movement is more fluid. You may begin to feel experiences from other lives, receive messages with precision, or enter dream states that feel more real than waking life. This is not imagination, it's dimensional re-entry. The upper floors of your consciousness are now open. This doesn't mean everyone suddenly remembers Atlantis or communicates with Pleiadians. It means your perception becomes less flat. Time becomes more non-linear. Emotions carry more wisdom. Energy becomes the language you trust over logic. You are not just waking up. You're expanding horizontally and vertically. This access is not an escape. It's a return to full-spectrum living. You are a multidimensional being that was once funneled into density. Now, with the grid gone, the hallway to your upper levels is open. What you find there won't overwhelm. It will reunite you with all of you. A grid held echoes of ancient distortion. The reptilian grid was not just a modern system. It carried echoes of ancient distortions from galactic wars, fallen empires, and unresolved trauma that Earth inherited. These echoes were embedded in the grid's emotional architecture, subtly feeding cycles of fear, mistrust, and power imbalance. When civilizations fell, their energetic debris didn't vanish. It got recycled. Earth, in her compassion, absorbed some of this density to help transmute it. But instead of clearing it, the reptilian system used that residue as programming, broadcasting old failure patterns into present timelines. The collapse of the grid doesn't just end a present interference. It closes a loop that has been repeating for ages. You may feel this as old, even ancestral wounds lifting suddenly. Collective karmic patterns that once felt endless now release without needing to be explained. This is why some are feeling lighter and heavier at once. The light is clearing distortion, but the echoes may still vibrate briefly as they dissolve. Do not fear these feelings. They are the final tremors of a pattern that no longer belongs in your future. The echo has stopped. The song has changed. Emotional sovereignty is now fully accessible. Under the reptilian grid, your emotional body was often infiltrated, not possessed, but manipulated. Feelings were echoed back to you with distortion. What should have been clarity became confusion. What should have been release became loops. Now, with the collapse, emotional sovereignty is returning. This means your emotions now belong fully to you. They no longer carry the weight of collective programming. A wave of sadness is no longer amplified by hidden inputs. A burst of joy is no longer immediately capped by subconscious guilt. You're feeling you, not the grid's reaction to you. This also empowers deeper healing, because without interference, your feelings can complete their cycle. No interruption, no looping. You cry and release. You grieve and integrate. You celebrate and expand. Emotion becomes an accurate compass again, free from energetic noise. As emotional sovereignty returns, you'll notice how much lighter choices feel. You trust your intuition. You're no longer over-explaining what you feel. The Pleiadians say this is one of the most important results of the collapse, because when a soul owns its emotion, it reclaims its reality. New light infrastructures are being activated now. With the old grid collapsed, space has opened for light infrastructures to rise. Networks built not on control, but on clarity, love, and resonance. These are not physical systems. They are energetic scaffolds that support truth, amplify intuition, and restore coherence between body, mind, and cosmos. These new infrastructures are crystalline in nature, living fields of sacred geometry, now reconnecting with Earth's magnetic lines and human energy centers. The Pleiadians explain they were always there, dormant under interference. Now they're awakening, because the interference signal has gone quiet. You may sense this as more synchronicity, deeper stillness, or a sense that something is supporting me even when logic cannot explain it. That's because these infrastructures don't shout, they harmonize. They lift your field into balance and reconnect you to collective, unified intelligence. These systems are not owned by anyone. They're accessible to all who operate from heart coherence, neutrality, and intention. They don't elevate through competition, but through frequency matching. You won't build these with effort. You'll attune to them by becoming who you truly are, clear, grounded, and aligned. The Inner Earth Alliance has stepped forward. With the collapse of the reptilian grid, another long-guarded force is stepping forward, the Inner Earth Alliance. These are ancient beings, stewards of Earth's higher wisdom, who have remained hidden until the surface grid distortion was no longer a threat to harmonic exchange. The Inner Earth civilizations aren't myths, they are multidimensional protectors, connected with advanced energetic knowledge. Until now, they've been watching and waiting, not out of fear, but because premature exposure would have endangered both humanity and their work. Now, they are initiating deeper contact. You may feel this as a resonance with mountains, crystals, or earth-based portals. Or you may receive vivid dreams, gentle nudges, or sudden downloads after spending time in nature. These are signatures of inner Earth guidance, subtle but unmistakably profound. Their message is not about superiority, it's about partnership. They offer frequency support, knowledge of Earth's true grid system, and reminders of how to live with the planet, not just on it. And as the surface field clears, so does the bridge between us and them, built through humility, reverence, and soul alignment. Cosmic law has been restored to Earth's field. One of the most profound shifts after the collapse is the restoration of cosmic law. For centuries, Earth operated under partial distortion of spiritual law, laws twisted by fear, control, and hierarchy. What was once universal truth was filtered through dense paradigms. Now, as the interference has lifted, true cosmic law is returning, not as rulebooks, but as resonant truths felt in the soul. You will notice it in the way balance restores itself without force, in how dishonesty feels heavier, in how harmony flows effortlessly once you're aligned with your inner integrity. Cosmic law isn't punishment, it's coherence. It governs not through authority, but through vibration. What you emit returns. What you align with expands. The system is self-balancing, not because of external judgment, but because of energetic consequence born from truth. As Earth steps back into this field, humanity is invited into spiritual maturity. No more rituals for approval. No more fear of divine retribution. Now your frequency is your compass. Cosmic law doesn't control behavior. It activates remembrance of how to live as a conscious part of a greater whole. Your body is no longer under energetic surveillance. The human body is an antenna, receiving and broadcasting frequencies constantly. Under the reptilian grid, it was subjected to subtle energetic surveillance, where emotions were harvested, nervous systems entrained, and thought cycles monitored through field interference. This was never about technology in the physical sense. It was frequency-based control, interruption patterns that made you question your instincts, suppress your voice, or react without clarity. But now, that web is offline, and your body can finally rest, realign, and speak for itself again. You may feel this as a deep drop into your own presence, like your breath moves differently, or your heartbeat echoes with truth. Food may taste fuller. Sleep may become richer. These are not mood shifts. These are the natural rhythms of your body no longer hijacked. Your body isn't just healing, it's recalibrating to its sovereign blueprint. It remembers its wisdom, its codes, its connection to Earth and cosmos. Now, free from foreign overlays, it begins to hum with clarity again. Your intuition isn't vague anymore, it's precise, because your body is no longer being jammed. This is the dawn of multidimensional clarity. As the grid collapses, clarity returns. Not surface-level clarity, but multidimensional awareness, where past, future, and soul essence begin to weave together in a living stream. You start to remember timelines that never happened but still shaped you. You feel truths you haven't studied, yet somehow always knew. Multidimensional clarity isn't just about insight. It's about reunion with expanded self. You no longer see life through a narrow lens. You feel the orchestration behind events. You understand pain in context. You forgive without forcing. And you move not from pressure, but precision. This dawn doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with a soft brightness inside your chest. A knowing that doesn't shout, but settles deep. You're not looking for signs anymore. You're becoming the signal, because the field around you has finally stopped scrambling your frequency. This is what the collapse truly gave us. Not just freedom from control, but the return to clarity. Not clarity of opinion, but of being. And from this space, you are no longer a seeker. You are a transmitter, a steward, a multidimensional soul remembering its light at last.